the thing with the Colorado shootings is that it doesn't matter, what new gun law that you have in order to solve the problem. Like, Joe Biden says that we need to enhance gun laws as a result of all that happened yesterday, I should say, with the Colorado shooting at the grocery store. Really, violent crime since the 1970s has decreased for the most part in America. Crime has gone down through 3 decades. Like the assault gun laws of the 1990s actually worked in terms of bringing down crime and having a more orderly society. That was something that we've agreed upon with each other during the 1990s, that it was necessary to make it harder for people with hardline backgrounds to access guns, whether those with mental health issues or maybe violent crime records. And the thing with Reagan is that he came during the time of libertarianism and Milton Friedman, where let's cut all the government barriers, let's cut all the government regulations, let's give the billionaires the largest of tax cuts, let's explode the deficit, let's send the nation to recession, let's then raise taxes because our tax cuts could not bring in their own revenue. Ronald Reagan needed House Democrats to spend money to help save his presidency. And that is why Reagan is allowed these people. Do they understand that it's libertarians that was behind the American economic policy of the 1980s? This is David Koch. Rand Paul ran for vice president. This was the time that, hey, greed is good. That Reagan's own economist wrote in an essay, Milton Friedman. He wrote the social contract for corporations in America, that greed is good. They solely exist to drive profit. And that came from Milton Friedman himself. And this is everything that's behind the social ethic libertarian ideology that says we should cut all of the programs out there that are for the welfare of the people, including having a less impoverished society, to where we could see even more rampant crime without the necessary after-school resources, for kids. For example, this is why we need government. We needed to help solve our social ills, and that's when government is good for the people. But understand, when it's run by the billionaires, you're going to have corruption by it. And Reagan, there's what the libertarians said socially. It wasn't just Reagan in the economic aspect of libertarianism, but these people said, hey, these people have the right to be amongst ourselves. You're holding these people against their will. But the fact is these people with mental health problems infringe on the rights of others. And these serious felony crimes is how they go to prison. And the mental health population has increased as a share of our prison population to like 2/10 of it. It used to be less than 1% because we actually had long-term care facilities, mental health wards. And we are more liberal than we were back in 1950s and 1960s, that they would have still been tolerated today if they were still around. As a matter of fact, without mental health facilities, this is when these people get on the streets and they get arrested and they get sent to the criminal justice system. That's the biggest problem that we are facing right now. And really the gun laws did the job. That crime has gone down ever since the 90s to the 2000s overall, and it's a credit to the gun laws of the 1990s. And so they did work. But I don't think it's the time, unless show me that there isn't enough rules in the book. There should be enough gun laws in the book as it is right now. I don't know what are the other flaws in the system, but as far as I can tell, maybe they need less military-style weapons on the street. I agree with that. They don't have a necessary place, around our society, and we don't have enough mental health screening out there too right now. That's really causing that. But blame Ronald Reagan for putting these people into the criminal justice system. Blame Ronald Reagan for literally selling himself out to private prison industry. You see, this sociopathic greed is good under Reagan. It showed you what resulted in Dwight Eisenhower's warning about the MIC, the military industrial complex, and former powers that run America. I mean, Ronald Reagan was part of that. Despite his good gun laws and raising taxes on the wealthy, Bill Clinton did that when he shipped the jobs overseas. He got the most of what they wanted. Obama continued. He was too passive with the military industrial complex. And Obama, was just straight up. He had the connections as a corporate lawyer. He had all the connections with the financial institutions. Goldman and Citibank were top Obama players. I know Goldman Sachs was over Donald Trump's cabinet. They certainly were the biggest owner of Barack Obama. And Goldman Sachs gave to George Bush. And as far as I can tell, I don't know what Jeb Bush has with the Goldman Sachs connections. All I do know is that Ted Cruz is part of it with his wife. Many other politicians have taken money from Goldman Sachs, and financial firms are the top donors for the George Bush campaign. Even though we think it's big oil, the biggest contributions were from banks, and I think that's where the Federal Reserve print the money stimulus came from, without creating any wealth for America as it is. I mean, mind you, Bush was part of this transfer the wealth away with NAFTA from his dad, Bush Sr. I mean, Bush Sr. crafted it. Republican establishment crafted it for Bill Clinton back in the day. And right now, there is enough gun laws, I believe, but there's a lack of care for mental health. And hopefully, if we expand Obamacare, that's what it can cover in America, is transferring the cost away from prisons and locking people up and getting people rehabilitated and working and paying tax and contributing to society. And we the most perfect society that America desires, and I think that's how we do that, and that's what we need to do. And so I think this, and as a result, what you see with the lack of mental health resources, I think boils down to Reagan. Even as a governor of California, he was leading the state to decrease the amount of state mental health hospitals out there. Reagan, they were all shutting down because Reagan was from the era of privatization, extreme laissez-faire. Let's get away from the government, and it's all backed by billionaires and big business. That's what they did with Reagan. And you ask, well, you cannot have Clinton and NAFTA. You can't have any of that. You can't have Obama, trade deals with Asia and all that. It all boils down to when America was at its peak. And I believe that the Vietnam War, pretty much you could point to when Nixon visited China. I think, if I had to be honest, I think the downturn really was when Nixon visited China. And Nixon was very corrupt, but at least the nation had any sense of morality back then. And they don't today. And they don't want to wear their mask. They don't want to do it out of their country. Our parents, our grandparents, they fought in World War II. These guys are crying over wearing a mask for 20 minutes inside a store. I mean, you think these pussies would have won World War II? I don't think so. These people crying about a piece of cloth, disgrace that generation. And that's what 2020 has done to us. This is what technology has done to us in a degree, where we do have some social ills that we have to solve as a society. But understand that civil libertarians giving these people the right to live amongst us, mentally unstable, unable to abide by laws without causing harm to others. It's like, no, civil libertarians, they don't have the right to own guns and be able to start a mass shooting. I'm sorry. Some people, owning guns is a privilege under the Constitution. It's a privilege. It is a right for most people because most people are capable of handling a gun. But it's about the mentally ill that is where we're at with access to guns. And so the access to guns for these mass shootings is going to decrease if you're able to give them the long-term medical care. And now I question that everything that was passed under stimulus may not be permanent. And if it's not permanent, guess what? We're in big trouble. We're in really big trouble. I can start a libertarian movement. You'll be saying that the government's a failure, that you need to get rid of the government. I mean, you're forgetting that you need a reform government, but this is how the billionaires win. The billionaires will produce do new ideas to fix the system. And that is the problem for this mass shooting in a nutshell. Crazy guy there or whatever, the Batman shooting, right? This guy was not mentally stable too. And I think he did have some medical conditions, maybe some schizophrenia, maybe. I believe that happened with that. Well, and then you have your rare cases of, I don't know if it was jihad or not for the Boston bombings. I'm not sure what their motives were. That's very few of them, I should say. Most of them are, full-grown Americans. How about Fields and in Texas, right? I don't know. It was some of the changing. With the hate coming with the changing America, that pretty much was happening from 1980s to 2010s, and that's when America saw most of its wealth go overseas, and it became a more open country to more parts of the world. And that's really when America changed. It was at the phase of globalization. The two just happened to meet together for whatever reason. It's just so timely how it happened at the same time. This is a new course of history where this is a more connected world, I think, with globalism, really. And I think these people really need. I think the biggest thing is that they need to get an attention span. They need to pay attention to what's happening around them and their government, and not being caught up with whatever else they're doing. And that's pretty hard to do. But the people got to stay awake and stay informed and involved in your democracy and what is happening around the world and in your country. And that's the most important thing. We got to improve the access to mental care in this country. This country has failed to do that. And coronavirus crime, my biggest question is, how is coronavirus crime throughout each area of the world? Mind you, what a bad proportion between the share of the world's population, the amount of deaths that the United States has from COVID is really interesting too. So you got mental health. It was not the gun. It was not the gun. But historically, you can blame it on Reagan. You can blame it on civil libertarians. And libertarianism would make America a third world country easily. No organized government. No government getting involved with high-speed rail projects that bring commerce in. Like, what the hell is libertarianism? Give it all to the billionaires, and the billionaires get to say how the standard of living is going to be? Is that what it is? Because the Cato and Freedom Works that are said to be bought by the people, they're paid for by billionaires. They're paid for by billionaires. How do you explain that Trump gave 65% of the tax benefit to the billionaires, the top 20%? Explain that 65% of the benefits for Joe Biden go to the bottom 60%, when Donald Trump's top 20% doesn't even include the bottom 60%. But this is the next step. I don't know if there are any people that are willing to bring America progressive, or it's just going to be a corporate centrist establishment that will let the unhinged right wing collapse on its own. If they dare experiment with libertarianism, which they will do, maybe Barbie dolls going to give them libertarianism. I'm talking about Ivanka Trump. Real late night show make fun of Ivanka back then, but I don't trust them. I don't trust these damn Americans. We're a pretty stupid country. There's a lot of dumb people out there that don't know a comparative advantage between the two without getting stuck in their conspiratorial, crazy, whacked up world out there. And mind you, do our globalists go out there in government trying to start up trouble? The United States does with its, CIA trade cartel of the United States, the trade of the drugs in the Latin America that the CIA is involved in the United States is, I'm sure, and their trading of opium in Afghanistan. So look out for that. Anyways, it all started with Reagan. The rise of the country started with Reagan. I mean, in a nutshell, these mass shootings are the result of Ronald Reagan, what he did by reducing the amount of people in mental health facilities. And I need to let you know the long-term history of this. Jimmy Carter and John F. Kennedy was involved in it. In 1963, JFK signs a Community Mental Health Act to provide federal funding for the construction of community-based preventative care and treatment facilities between the Vietnam War and the economic crisis. The problem was never adequately funded because Dwight Eisenhower warned America of the military-industrial complex. JFK wanted to get America out of Vietnam. He wanted to issue silver certificates for the U.S. Treasury away from the Federal Reserve, and 11110 executive order got JFK assassinated. I mean, this guy was really a great first-time Catholic president. I have to see what Joe Biden can bring to the equation. But he did bomb Syria just like Donald Trump did. Joe Biden gave us lots of tax relief, but the question is, it's temporary. It may not be permanent. Is it going to be up to the Republicans in the midterms, or is Joe Biden going to fail to bring us something else that comes with it, like a little bit of an innovative vision for America, like bringing clean energy and starting our own jobs and fighting against China that way, to bring the wealth back to America, to improve the standard of living for America, bring the wealth to America, to win again as a people, that the people are prosperous, the billionaires will get healthy, and they will invest. And this is what America needs. And I think the privatization aspect of the Medicaid program is pretty clear. States are incentivized to move patients out of the state mental hospitals into nursing homes and general hospitals because the program, Medicaid, excludes coverage for people in institutions for mental diseases. So this is the right-wing billionaire influence in Medicaid, is that they wanted these people in mental hospitals to be transferred over to private prisons in the criminal justice system. The California legislature passes the Lanham-Petris Short Act, which makes involuntary hospitalization of mentally ill people vastly more difficult. So the Libertarian Party was founded in 1972, around this time, that they were getting rid of institutionalization of people in California. 1 year after the law goes into effect, the number of mentally ill people in the criminal justice system doubles. And that's what Reagan did. And then here we are. Big oil rigs the production of oil in the world. Big oil tells us that the world was running out of oil. They set up Jimmy Carter for failure, who wanted peace in the Middle East. He's the last fucking goddamn president whose kids don't go to private school. This guy divested from his peanut farm when he was president. Jimmy Carter spoke out against oligarchy. Jimmy Carter is the fucking man. Okay, this guy was fucking great. Big oil ruined his presidency. In 1980, the last great thing for America before the age of Reagan, the billionaires, 1980, Jimmy Carter signs a Mental Health System Act, which aimed to restructure the Community Mental Health Center program and improve services for people with chronic mental illnesses. And then Reagan, Ronald Wilson Reagan, 666. Under Ronald Reagan, the beast, the 49th president in American history, the Gematria of Revelation, the Gematria of the Antichrist. Under Ronald Reagan and the billionaires, the Libertarian Party's Gematria is 81. The Libertarian Party has secretly been in the government for years. The Libertarian Party is such a scam. They were in the Republican Party. Their ideas, except with the Republican Party, they're more racist or targeting black people in the 1980s, but libertarians wanted to let them go. But the libertarians were preparing for the future. The libertarians and the Republican Party, John Birch Society, Freemasons are all together. And in this, to brainwash the people with this economic agenda. Ronald Reagan is not Ronald Reagan, but Joe Biden's bringing all these people from Venezuela. And why is that? Republicans support immigration. They support cheap labor. That is the foundation of the Republican Party. The Republican Party brought these people in because of that, but the Republicans like bringing these people from communist countries because coming from authoritarian, communist, old-style socialist countries, these people easily become loving freedom and being diehard patriot. So Vietnamese people, a lot of Vietnamese people like Trump, a lot of Cuban-American Floridians like the right wing and think democratic socialism is this authoritarian socialism when it isn't. Authoritarian socialism is derived from the will of the people through the social contract. But here's Reagan. His omnibus budget reconciliation act repeals Carter's community health legislation, established block grants for the states, and the Fed's role in providing services to the mentally ill. Thanks a lot, Reagan, of private prisons and the billionaires. Mental health spending decreases by 30%. Ohio-based study in 1984 finds out that 30% of homeless people are thought to suffer from serious mental illness. And then there's the crime that comes in. Federal funding drops 11% of community mental health agency budgets. 1990, clozapine, the first atypical antipsychotic drug to be developed, approved by FDA as treatment for schizophrenia. Maybe this stuff hooks you to more of the drugs. Who knows? I'm glad I didn't take all these prescribed crap, what they make you feel just for the sake of their dollar. Get you hooked up and subscribed, prescribed to it. 2004 study suggests 60% of prison inmates seriously mentally ill, 320,000 people. There are only 100,000 psychiatric beds in public and private hospitals. There are 3 times as many people in jails and prisons and hospitals. This was 2004. This is George Bush. I mean, I remember hearing this in the news, even though it was Fox News. I remember it was 2006. I was like, I wonder how that's happening. It's because it's privatization. It's the billionaires that are causing that. And then the Republicans in the Great Recession, states forced cut $4.35 billion in public mental health spending, 43,000 psychiatric beds in the United States in 2010. I mean, the mental health shooting did not happen because of guns, because violent crime went down. It all boils down to Reagan. It all boils down to libertarians and what their idea of freedom means means infringing on our freedom and our liberty and our civil liberties being under violent attack when you let a mentally ill nut among the people. We as a society can't have that. We're not really free as a society if you have that. If you have these people roaming the streets, you have these people not rehabilitated, these people are costing you money with taxation. That money is going towards the private prison industry. Okay, gotta wake up about a lot of these things that the Republican Party has done, and including Bill Clinton. You have to be real about that. But when it all boils down, when in doubt, when you try to pass on blame, it all started with Reagan. Thank you very much, and we'll provide a next take, maybe more to come with these diversions for both of these parties. What kind of migrant crisis, because a popular bipartisan bill has passed, and with what happened with Cuomo and his cover-up of the deaths in the mental health facilities, is the DNC trying to divert our attention away from that and into sexual assault in the Me Too movement for the Democratic Party, with Kamala Harris as vice president being assigned, looking over, trying to cut down migration in Central America.